Hey guys, and welcome back for a new episode of the Know Your Formula One track series. And this week is the United States Grand Prix. The Circuit of the Americas, best known as COTA, is located 14 miles south of Austin, Texas. This track opened in 2012 and was the first circuit in the US to be specifically designed for Formula One. However, the US Grand Prix started in 1959 at Sebring and has seen a lot of venues since then. But let's get back to COTA. This track was resurfaced this year after being criticized for not being well suited for F1 cars. The track was in fact very bumpy, and Verstappen actually called it as a track that was more appropriate for rally cars. The project was finalized in September, and it should make racing at COTA a lot more enjoyable for drivers, as well as making the track safer and faster. The Circuit of the Americas is 5.5 kilometers long and is run counterclockwise. It has 20 turns and 2 DRS zones. And let's not forget that we're getting double the fun this week because we have a sprint weekend. The fastest race lap is a 1:36.169 and was done by Charles Leclerc in 2019. But the fastest qualifying lap was done the same year by Bottas and was a 1:32.029. Hamilton is the most successful driver at the United States Grand Prix with 6 victories, including 5 at COTA. Ferrari is the most successful constructor with 9 wins. But the best way to understand COTA is to drive it, so let me jump into the sim and show you what a fast lap around the Circuit of the Americas is all about. We start a lap of COTA with DRS open as we approach the sharp climb of Big Red at more than 300 km per hour, braking at around the 100-meter board. Turn 1 is a struggle to get on power as fast as possible without breaking traction. Turn 2 is easy flat, and then the S's come at you so fast. You really want to have a good flow through here, and that requires getting each apex right, utilizing as much curb as you can. You have so much grip going into the compression of turn 7 left, and then it's uphill again towards the tricky 8, which requires a lot of patience. Making the exit as straight as possible will help the approach into 9, which already lacks grip. Turn 10 is a flat-out left-hander that leads into a downhill run towards the turn 11 hairpin. After the high-speed twisting sections of the pass sector, drivers will get a small respite here with the super long back straight and naturally the first DRS zone. The speed trap at the end of this stretch will clock cars going upwards of 330 km per hour. The turn 12 braking zone offers the best overtaking opportunity on the circuit, but drivers will have to be careful on the exit of the corner as it's easy to get an off track here. Then begins sector 3, a technical crawl that reminds me of Hockenheim Stadium section. Overtaking within any of the next several turns is very rare, so it's important to nail apexes and be easy on the throttle out of every turn in order to maximize tire life. All that's thrown out the window though as you exit turn 15 and head towards the flat-out turn 16 loop, where drivers will face G-force readings through the roof. Off-tracks are common in the next 2 left-handers as well, so drivers will need to find the balance between risk and reward, especially in qualifying. Now we're back onto the front straight for another lap of COTA. The US Grand Prix at the Circuit of the Americas is always special due to a unique blend of American culture, exciting racing, and very distinct track characteristics. And in today's video, I'm going to separate the two. I'm going to start by talking about the track itself, and then I'll go on to talking specifically about the United States Grand Prix. So let's start by talking a little bit more about the layout of this track. COTA is a technical track with a diverse layout and challenging sections. One of the most noticeable characteristics are the elevation changes, and especially the uphill run into turn 1 known as Big Red. It is one of the most dramatic elevation change in F1 with a 41-meter climb. With multiple racing lines, it makes for a great overtaking spot, and we often see some bold moves happen there. Needless to say, a lot is being asked from drivers and cars in order to master the Big Red. And by the way, this name was given after an initial COTA investor, Red McCombs. But as mentioned earlier, this track has so much more to offer, and a few sections were actually inspired by other famous tracks. For example, the S's at COTA mimic the flow and speed of Maggots and Beckett's at Silverstone. The multi-apex turn 16 to 18 pays homage to the turn 8 at Istanbul Park. The elevation changes and the counterclockwise direction is also similar to the Brazilian circuit. And I feel like I can't talk about this track without mentioning that it was designed by Tilke. If you don't know him, he's one of the only FIA-approved track designer, and he is responsible for most of F1's most recent tracks. Some of the current ones are Bahrain, China, Abu Dhabi, and of course COTA. You either love or hate his designs. He was criticized by a lot of F1 fans for the Yas Marina circuit. Tilke using a lot of similar designs across his tracks, including back-to-back long straights separated by a tight braking zones, turn 1 and 2 switchbacks, wide circuits with some fast sweeping corners, and of course a lot of modern buildings. And one of the most noticeable buildings at this venue is the COTA Tower, a 250-foot tower with an observation deck at the top. It has become an iconic symbol for the track, and as you can imagine, it offers incredible views of the track. And while it would be the perfect spot to watch the race, you are actually only allowed to stay there for 10 minutes and it will cost you $35. Now going back to Tilke, a lot of the criticisms about his design is about the predictability around the layout and the inability to produce good racing.
What do you think of the Abu Dhabi circuit? Well, you said the first few turns are quite good, but the rest of it is It's catastrophically boring to watch cars race around there, from our point of view.
But I think it's quite many other circuits also.
Other circuits often are narrower, have more character, and they have more unpredictability overall, making for more exciting racing. But at this day and age, Tilke is definitely more focused on safety and on entertainment. However, COTA usually makes for good races and is often compared to some very iconic tracks such as Silverstone and Suzuka. And with that, let's talk more specifically about the Grand Prix itself. As I mentioned earlier, the US Grand Prix has been on the calendar since 1959 and started as Sebring, but it has seen no less than 10 venues since then. It has been hosted in multiple states in the US, including California, Arizona, Nevada, Michigan, New York, many others. And as I mentioned before, COTA was the first track specifically designed for F1. So you might wonder what took so long. And part of it is probably because F1 hasn't been very popular in the US until more recently. And there are multiple reasons for that. And the first one is that F1 was really never part of the American culture. F1 has historically been a European-centric motorsport, with most teams and drivers being based outside of the US. In the US, the tradition was more inclined toward NASCAR and IndyCar, with the fan culture biased towards oval racing. Of course, the constant change in location for the Grand Prix and the lack of F1 dedicated infrastructure also gave the sport an unstable image, making it difficult to create a loyal fan base. It wasn't for lack of trying though. For example, in 1981 and 82, F1 held a race in Las Vegas. The track was created on the parking lot of the Caesars Palace Hotel and only 38,000 spectators showed up.
But in the end, the race failed in the one area Caesars Palace needed it to succeed.
The whole event was put on to get 12 new high rollers. They didn't show up.
It was also very difficult to watch races from the US due to no broadcasting partners and due to the time zone difference. However, everything changed with the acquisition of F1 by Liberty Media in 2016. F1 became easily accessible through streaming and social media, which made for a lot more engagement. Of course, the launch of the Drive to Survive series on Netflix also participated in creating a new audience for the sport and creating interest in new demographics by making the sport just more accessible overall and also humanizing more the drivers and the teams. The growth of F1 in the US since then has been exponential, leading to a strategic expansion with 2 new locations, Miami and Las Vegas. And of course, the addition of the off-track events such as the concerts and the fan zones have also participated in increasing the engagement with the sport. And I cannot be talking about the US Grand Prix without giving a shout out to Ricciardo, who always makes a grand entrance in Texas. Now last year, Max Verstappen took the victory after starting 6th on the grid, and he was actually the first driver ever to win after not starting on the front row at COTA. Alright guys, it is prediction time, and for this week I'm gonna say that Piastri is gonna take the win. I think Max is gonna do pretty good on this track, so I'm gonna put him second, and I will put Hamilton in third because they're coming with upgrades and he's always been pretty good on this track. But I'm really curious to hear what you guys think, so let me know in the comments below what your predictions are, and I will give a shout out to whoever get it right in the next video. And that's gonna be it for today, so thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next one.